We wish your sister was our only child. The restaurant froze. I'm Stacy, 35, and my dad said that at my parents' 36th anniversary dinner while Noreen smirked like she'd finally won. For years, I wired $500 a month and quietly fixed their failing store. Unseen, unheard. That night, something locked into place. They expected me to swallow it, like always. They forgot one thing. I was the one keeping their doors open, and I was done. 1 week later, their perfect story began to crack. If you've ever been betrayed by your own family, tell me what you'd do, and add your country so I know how far this reaches. Growing up, I was background noise in my own house. Philip and Carol, my parents, lit up for Noreen like she was center stage. Report cards slapped on the fridge were always hers. At dinner, if I opened my mouth, Mom would tilt her head, kind but cutting. Let's hear from your sister. Dad's eyes followed, obedient, like a spotlight. I learned to fold my stories into napkins and swallow them. The first crack I remember was the math competition. I'd studied until my eyes ached, took first place, held the ribbon like proof that I existed. They didn't come. We can't miss Noreen's recital, Mom said, already grabbing her coat. Afterward, I walked home in my itchy tights, ribbon in my pocket, imagining applause that never happened. It didn't stop there. At a cousin's wedding years later, I'd just landed a financial manager role. A big step. My parents spent the night boasting about Noreen's new retail job. She's a natural, Dad told anyone who'd listen. I stood by the punch bowl, nodding along, tasting sugar and humiliation. By the time they opened the family store in Chicago, I'd built skills that could actually save them. Spreadsheets, cash flow, negotiating terms. Every month I wired $500 from my savings, like clockwork. It wasn't charity, it was survival. For them. I'd sit at my desk at 11 p.m., lines of numbers swimming, finding leak after leak. When I fixed a tax issue that could have cost them thousands, I arrived with the paperwork ready. Mom skimmed the first page and said, "Oh, good. By the way, Noreen's planning a big sale next month." No thank you. No pause. Dad was already dialing her to talk vision. I suggested we switch to better accounting software. Silence. Months later, Noreen parroted the same suggestion in a group chat, and suddenly it was brilliant. I stared at my phone, the same recommendation now a revelation because it came from the favorite. It's disorienting when your competence only counts in secret. The barbecue at 20 still stings. Smoke in the air, paper plates bending under potato salad, and Noreen grinning over the rim of a red cup. "Stacy's lucky to be the backup kid," she joked. Mom laughed. Dad didn't correct her. I remember the way the grass felt under my bare feet, how small I felt in a yard I'd mowed all summer. I told myself this was what family did. You show up. You wire the money. You pick up the phone at midnight. You absorb the blow so the house doesn't topple. Each transfer was a little ghost of a vacation I didn't take. An apartment upgrade I delayed. I kept a spreadsheet labeled family, the one sheet I never balanced. What left me? What never came back? At their table, every story circled back to Noreen. Her promotions, her pitches, her plans. When I tried to offer real fixes, cut bloated suppliers, streamline inventory, their faces glazed over like I'd switched to another language. "Let's not bore everyone with numbers," Mom would say. Dad would nod. The message was simple. Contribute invisibly, celebrate silently, and know your place. I kept going. Month after month, $500 and a dozen unpaid hours. Love disguised as duty. Duty mistaken for weakness. And me, hoping, against reason, that one day they'd look up and see me. The anniversary invite felt like a formality. My name on a list, not on their minds. Still, I went. You show up, I told myself. Maybe tonight they'll hear me out. The Chicago restaurant pulsed with clinking glass and white shirt waiters threading through tables. Our family took over a long stretch near the windows. Cousins, aunts, uncles, all smiles and perfume. The spotlight, as always, found Noreen. A cousin leaned in, grinning. "I heard you're killing it. Regional manager already." She tilted her chin, basking. Another relative chimed in about her amazing displays. Mom beamed. She's always had a knack for business. Dad swelled, like her title was pinned to his lapel. I twirled pasta and waited for a seam in the noise. When it came, I cleared my throat. "I've been looking at the store's numbers," I said, keeping my tone even. "You're losing money on overstock. If we adjust inventory and cut a few suppliers, we could save thousands a year. I can renegotiate terms." The table went quiet in that brittle way that means judgment, not interest. Noreen's eyebrow climbed. "That's cute," she said, voice sugared with static. "Stick to your spreadsheets. I've got actual ideas." A cousin chuckled into a napkin. Mom patted the air like shooing a fly. "Sweetie, let's not bore everyone with numbers. Noreen's planning a big summer sale." Dad didn't look at me. He took a sip and muttered, "Yeah, Noreen knows what she's doing." Heat rose up my neck. Weeks of late nights, vendor lists, carrying costs, a clean plan, shrunk into a punchline. I tried once more. "It's not just numbers. I can get better payment terms. That alone." "That?" Noreen laughed, louder this time. "Vendors? Please. Maybe focus on your own job." The word maybe was the knife. The smirk was the twist. A low murmur fluttered around the table. Some amused, some uncomfortable. I could feel the familiar choreography settling. I offer substance. She offers swagger. They reward the performance. I remembered my spreadsheet labeled family, all those transfers and unpaid hours, and felt a tug between habit and self-respect. Waiters arrived, dropping plates with choreographed grace, resetting the mood. Conversations reignited, about Noreen's new ad campaign, about color palettes and catchy slogans that never materialized. I tried to listen, but my mind kept arranging their cash flow like Tetris pieces they refused to see. I pictured that one supplier who'd extend net 45 if I asked, the dusty stock that should be liquidated, the tax penalties I'd dodged last quarter. Simple fixes, if anyone would let me lead. I caught Mom watching Noreen tell a story, her face soft with pride. When I spoke, she never looked like that. The realization wasn't new. It was just finally heavy enough to set down. I folded my napkin, willing my hands not to shake. Maybe this was the last time I'd bring them a solution. Maybe the lesson was that I could be excellent and still be optional in my own family. The thought scared me and steadied me. Across the table, Noreen's smile sharpened, like she sensed I was almost done being useful. She raised her glass, eyes glittering. Somewhere inside me, a door clicked. Dad stood, glass lifted. To 36 years of love, family, and our pride and joy. His eyes landed on Noreen, then on me. Honestly, we wish Noreen was our only child. Air left the room. A fork clinked and stayed still. Noreen didn't blink. She smirked. Mom sipped her wine like nothing unusual had been said. Every cousin's face turned toward me, waiting for the scene where I cry or beg. I didn't. My heart pounded, but my voice came out calm. "Enjoy your night." I pushed my chair back, the scrape sounded like a verdict, and walked. Heels on hardwood, door, cold Chicago air. On the sidewalk, the city blurred. Years of transfers and midnight fixes braided into one hard line. I was done being useful and invisible. At home, I opened the family group chat, Dad, Mom, Noreen, me, and typed, "I'm done helping with the store. No more money. No more advice. Good luck." I hit send and felt the floor steady under me. The phone lit up within minutes. Dad's voicemail. "We need to talk about this." Another, tighter. "You're overreacting." Mom's texts stacked into a wall. Legacy, family, duty, none of which had ever included me by name. Noreen. "Seriously." Then later. You can't just walk away like this. I muted the thread. By morning, the panic sharpened. Dad cycled new numbers, voice swinging from pleading to scolding. Mom's emails turned into essays about sacrifice. Mine, apparently, was ode. I watched the notifications pile up and didn't touch a single one. Without my $500 a month, late fees would show up like clockwork. Without my spreadsheets and vendor calls, the cracks would spider. 2 days in, Noreen went public. A Facebook post, open to family and friends. Some people think they're indispensable. Really, they're just petty, stirring drama to feel important. Comments bloomed. Relatives tagged me like bait. Another post dragged my relationships, lies packaged as concern. My phone buzzed with questions, rumors, pitying emojis. I could have answered with receipts, bank transfers, tax letters I'd fixed, supplier emails saying thanks, Stacy. I didn't. Responding would be surrendering the only thing I had finally reclaimed, my time. That night, the apartment hummed with a quiet that wasn't loneliness. It was relief with rough edges. I stared at the ceiling and realized the worst had already happened at that table. What came next was just the accounting. A week later, I booked a flight to Florida. Not to escape, to be heard. Grandpa Henry had always seen through polish. If there was a person who could tell truth from performance, it was him. As the confirmation email hit my inbox, I felt something like breath for the first time in years. Not victory, not revenge, just the sound of my own life beginning. Florida heat wrapped around me like a truth I couldn't dodge. Grandpa Henry met me on the porch, eyes narrowed the way they get when he's measuring load-bearing walls. Inside, with the old fan rattling, I told him everything. The anniversary toast, Noreen's smirk, the years of transfers, the fixes no one thanked me for, the Facebook smears. They said that, in public? He asked, voice low. I nodded and slid my phone across the coffee table. Screenshots of Noreen's posts, my bank app showing the $500 monthly transfers, the email thread where I'd kept them from a tax penalty. Grandpa's jaw tightened. That's not family. That's betrayal. He stood, paced once, then picked up the phone. I'm calling my lawyer, he said, like a man deciding which beam to replace so the house stops sinking. By late afternoon, a compact man in a gray suit sat at the kitchen table with a yellow pad. Grandpa spoke plainly. I'd meant to divide everything, land, rentals, the lot of it, among my kids, with some for the granddaughters. But I've watched long enough. Cut Philip, Carol, and Noreen out. The properties go to Stacy. Set aside a portion for the charity. Make it airtight. The lawyer looked to me. You sure? Grandpa didn't blink. She's earned what the others forfeited. I didn't plead, didn't perform gratitude. I just breathed, a steady inhale I hadn't felt in years. Someone saw the ledger, the real ledger, and balanced it. Before the lawyer left, Grandpa asked for numbers. I told him how the $500 bridged late bills, which suppliers I'd kept patient, where the books would crack now that I'd stepped away. Grandpa shook his head, then let the cracks show. His hand, rough from a lifetime of work, closed over mine. Not out of spite, out of truth. Back in Chicago, I didn't answer calls. I didn't check Noreen's posts. I didn't rescue anyone. I went to work, cooked pasta, watered plants, and let the math work itself. It didn't take long. Without my transfer, late fees hit like hail. A supplier cut them off. The tax notice landed. I heard the play-by-play from a cousin who'd always watched more than she spoke. They're scrambling, she whispered over the phone. And, Stacy, I posted something. What? A screenshot. Your transfers. People needed to see the truth. I closed my eyes. Somewhere, a scale moved a single notch toward level. The comments flipped fast. You lied about her. She carried you. Apologize. Noreen started deleting, but the internet never really forgets. Family friends unfollowed. A colleague of hers commented, then deleted, then messaged me privately. I'm sorry. I didn't know. At a barbecue, different yard, same folding tables. And Uncle said what no one had risked before. You pushed her away. And for what? No one answered. Silence is loud when it has receipts. Then came the legal echo. A letter from Florida in Grandpa's careful handwriting. It's done. The land and properties are yours. A portion to charity. They won't get a cent. Not vengeance. Justice documented in ink. The store wobbled, then buckled. Without inventory plans, the back room turned into a museum of bad decisions. The bank called their note. Foreclosure notices went up. I didn't drive by. I didn't need to see plywood to know something had finally closed. My phone buzzed. Mom's number, then Dad's, then unknown. I let them all ring into a quiet that wasn't emptiness. It was space, the kind you need to build something new. And for the first time, I wasn't the one on call. In the quiet that followed, my life didn't turn cinematic. It turned clear. Work filled with the kind of problems I like. Budgets that respond to logic. Teams that respect results. The tech startup trusted my instincts. I negotiated hard, saved them from a reckless expansion, and earned a promotion that felt like a contract with myself. I don't need their approval to win. Kathleen kept showing up with coffee and common sense. Focus on the people who lift, she'd say, sliding a pancake across the table like a benediction. Brian walked beside me, steady and unhurried, listening more than advising. Proof that love can be quiet and still be strong. Grandpa's letters stayed in my desk, ink, paper, and a promise that justice can look like a clean ledger. Meanwhile, the old story folded in on itself. The store shuttered, the house lost, the spotlight gone. I didn't gloat. I didn't chase apologies. Consequences were doing their work without my help. The lesson, simple, sharp, kept repeating. Cherish the ones who see you. Release the ones who only need you. I used to wire money hoping it would buy respect. Now I invest in what pays back in dignity. My craft, my health, my people. If loyalty asks you to disappear, it isn't loyalty. It's leverage. Step back and the truth appears. If any part of this feels familiar, tell me what you would have done in my place, and add your country. I'm listening, and I hope someone who needs this finds the courage to balance their own books.